Hey, Don here. I'm back in the theater and I'm at the PreSonus 64S mixer. I want to talk today about setting your input gain and setting up a channel. This is like first thing you need to know how to do. You plug a mic in, now what do I do?
Oh yeah! Welcome to the show!
So anyway, I took a mic and I wired it straight into the back of the console and I went to channel 11 and I got this set back to just flat. There's nothing. So the first thing you want to do is select number or the channel that you're in, okay? And then up here on the fat channel, that's what this is called, I want to look at input stuff. So there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, first thing you have to do, my mixer is normally set up to use with stage boxes, so you can choose one of 4 sources or inputs coming to channels, and those are right here. You can choose the analog input back here. This is default to the network, so with a network cable that would go up to the stage and stage boxes, I would normally select that. You can also have a computer hooked up right here, and if you're playing back some tracks from Studio One or another software, the USB, the feed or the signals that come in from the computer, that would be under the USB. All the StudioLive consoles have an SD card slot. These slots use SD cards to multi-track record. Check their website. There's some specific ones they like you to use because it will record all the way up to 64 tracks. That takes a lot of oomph, a lot of processing. So they want a really good quality SD card in there, but they have them listed on the website if you go search for that. So if you want to play those back, you'd select SD card. That's your 4 choices. Right now, since I actually have a cable plugged right into the back, that's an analog signal, I want to select analog on that channel. So now, if you look here, I can start talking and you're seeing a little signal coming in here. And let's talk a minute. I want to talk about gain because analog mixers treat your gain levels just a little bit different. In the analog world, 0 dB would be your unity, and then they would give you some room above that. And if you pushed it too hard, you could go into clipping, which you can push it a little bit harder on analog, so that's where the numbers landed. In digital though, in the digital world, when you hit 0 dB, that is it, that is clipping. You can't go any higher than that. So now that is the top level that you're going to find on most digital console LED bar graphs or any metering that you do. So keeping that in mind, before you would try to set your level at about 0 dB on an analog console. On a digital console, the magic number, at least I use and I think other people use, is -12. So with this input button hit, now I can control different things on the input on that channel. The first knob up here in the left-hand corner, that is my gain knob, my preamp gain. It defaults to 0 dB, that's why we're only getting, you know, a few bars down here. So I'm going to start bringing this up. Testing, testing, 1, 2. And if you have a singer, you want them to sing and talk as loud as that you normally would, and bring that up until you get to about that -12, which happens to be the first, on this console, the first yellow bar. So that gives you a good indication. And my peaks are hitting about that. That gives you a little bit of room. And what I had to do to get that with this particular mic, this is a Beta 58, and I'm talking pretty much right on it, as loud as, you know, I probably would sing louder and do things, but that's the key, is to try to get the performer to talk or sing as loud as they would during the performance so you can get this set and get enough level without too much. You want a little bit of headroom to work with there. And I had to add 32 dB of gain to the preamp to get it up to that level. That's pretty common. I normally see about 30 on most mics, 25 to 30, maybe a little bit more for most microphones, standard dynamic mics like this. So once I've set that input level, now you can see the input or the level down here on the channel as well. It gives you 3 bar graphs, and I'm hitting a couple of them here. 1, 2, test, test. So that's a good indicator. So the next thing we want to do is my channel, I don't know if you can see close enough, maybe I can zoom in. The scribble strip here on digital consoles allow you to name the channels. So this would be my vocal mic, and there's nothing there now, so since I'm still selected here, okay, let me go in to, I've got the overview of the channel showing up in the touch screen, and I've got EQ, gate, compressor, limiter. I've got my preamp gain over here as well. And just to give you an idea how PreSonus does it, it gives you a couple places that you can make adjustments always. So I made my adjustment here for my preamp gain. I could have also gone in here and touched and highlighted preamp there, and then this encoder right underneath the screen here would have done the same thing. Test, test, 1, 2, 3, I'll put it back at 32, okay? Let's talk about a couple other things here. High pass filter, okay? What is that? Well, it lets the high frequencies pass through, so it's basically a low cut. So if you got boominess and you don't want that, and it's really a good idea on vocals. Most vocals, unless you're the bass singer for you know, some gospel group or something like that, it's hard for most human voices to produce anything below 100 hertz. So let me go ahead and select that over in the touch screen. That's where I like to do it. Now I'm going to start bringing that up. And if you notice the screen here, you're starting to see the EQ tail off, all right? And I'm bringing that up, bringing that up. And where I like to start, let's go ahead and start at 100 hertz, okay? Bring that up to about 100. There's 101, okay? So now I've taken out some of that low frequencies, that boominess that might cause pops and things like that with the high pass filter. All right, so on this console, oh, and let me go back in something. I wanted to mention here what firmware I'm on, because I'm not on the latest one. There's a new one in 2026 that I have not updated yet to. I'm still on one from July of 25, and let me go tell you what number that is. I'm going to hit the home button, I'm going to hit the system button, and over here I have a choice of selecting firmware, and my firmware I'm using right now, so this, when they change firmware, some of the choices in the way they label the screen looks different. So I want you guys to be able to know which one I'm working on. But mine is 3.1.0.117071. That is the firmware that I'm currently working on. And I don't want to make any changes because I've got shows coming up here in the next couple months. And everything's working right now. I don't want to take the time to do updates. I will though, because I am a huge fan of having the latest firmware because of any little things that they add, any bug fixes. But everything for me is working right now, so I'm going to leave well enough alone. All right, let me go back to where I was. I'm going to hit the, home, hit select. All right, so now I'm on this main screen here. Hopefully you can see that here. And this is just an overview. And if you want to start EQing things, or you know, I'll tell you what, let's do the first thing I would do. Let's name the channel. And where you do that is up here on this gear, that's your settings gear. And then right here, the first field here is your channel name. So I'm going to select that. It brings up your QWERTY keyboard here, and let's just call it vocal. V-A-L. All right. You can use whatever shorthand you want, but when I hit enter now, if you come down here, and I don't know if I'll be able to zoom in and show you this, but vocal is now right above the number 11 on channel 11 here. So I've set my input gain. Like I said, the magic number that I look at is -12 on a digital console. That's a really good target. I don't want to get into too much more stuff, but setting up a channel, the only other thing that you probably want to do on a channel is doing some basic EQing. All right, if you've never done EQing before, and maybe I shouldn't have went into the high pass filter, Let me show you something else that's a great tool to use. It's the presets that are built into this thing. I don't know why I'm talking into this mic. I have this mic over here. But let me go show you that. All right, up here in your fat channel, number 11 is still selected, as you can see here. I can hit load, and now you can see what you've got here. You've got different groups of different sounds, and I could scroll through. There's boatloads of them. But let's go to the group select here. It defaults to all, and I'm going to go down. And if you scroll down, you'll see one that says vocal. All right, well now I'm just looking at the vocal presets, and I'm a male vocal, so guess what? Let me just use male 1, which is already selected. And then if you go over here, right underneath here, you see these two buttons that are flashing. One says store, one says recall. Store is just for that. If you want to save something or store it, if you created something, you could do that. In this case, we want to recall something and put it back in here. So I hit the recall button. What it did now, take a look at this EQ. It has set up a standard EQ for a male vocal. It added a noise gate so that the channel doesn't turn on until somebody's on the microphone. I like that sometimes I don't, depends. And then it's also set up a standard compressor for a male vocal. I will tell you, the presets that are built into the PreSonus, really, really good. I did a whole setup for like a festival scene. When I go do multiple bands, we got a show Friday. That's why I'm doing this now, because we got to pack this stuff up and get it in the truck in a couple days. So I wanted to do a quick one here. I've set up an entire 32 channels, even though this is 64. The first 32 I've set up as my standard festival default. So I've got drums, I've got guitars, I've got vocals, keyboards, a bunch of stuff that I've defaulted. And all I did is I went into all these channels. Like channel 1 for me is kick drum. All right, I went in, I loaded in a kick drum preset. I got a snare drum preset on the snare channel. High tom, mid tom, low toms, I think is how they name them in the presets. I loaded those into the channels I dedicated for toms. Overhead mics for cymbals, I put in an overhead preset. Bass guitars, I put those in. I've put electric guitars, acoustic guitars, keyboards, and I populated 32 channels. So this, let's see, this Friday, I think I have a band that has 3 vocals, maybe 4, 4-piece drum set, bass guitar, 2 electric guitars, and a keyboard. So that stuff's already in here. All I have to do now is when the keyboard guy sets up, I hook into his direct box or his source, and I plug that into the channel that we've dedicated for keyboards. So what that does for me, without working with the band ahead of time and doing any preliminary programming, I have the presets in here already that allow me to plug in the bass in a channel that's already set up for bass. Electric guitar, plug that into a channel that's ready for guitar. The vocals, I actually have 8 vocal channels over here. The last 8 channels are all 8 vocal channels, which I just started as male vocal for all of them. If I get a female vocal, all I do is I select the one that we plugged her mic into, and I go back in and I just quickly load a female vocal on that particular channel. And then as things go on, if there's something specific, I can rename real quick. You saw how quick it was for me to name the channel. But that's setting up a channel. And then once you've got the channel set up how you want with the preset, then let's talk about sends. All right? Well, guess what? You have PA speakers, that's your mains. The main output of the mixer would go to those speakers. And then on this particular, I'm going to set this over here because these might start moving. The way to access all of that is I would hit over here. This is your mix select area over here. I would select main mix, which would now allow me, and I had a couple channels already there, so I'm glad I moved that mic. So this is your master slider for whatever mix you're working on. Okay, we're on the main mix, so that's what we're working on. This The output of this mixer would go to those speakers, and anything I turn up now, I always set the master to the unity. There's a big U right there. That's kind of where you want to live. And then I can start bringing this up, and I don't have a speaker hooked up. You'll have to trust me. Then you start bringing this level up to get it in the main PA system. All right, same thing. If I got some drums down here, I'd create my mix. So now this mix is, let's say that's where I want my mix. It would probably be a little higher here. And I've actually got, if you notice here, you notice that slider is moving the same thing. These are my overhead left and right. So if I have stereo sources, like I usually put 2 overhead mics on the drums, I can tie them together. I can link them together on this console. I also have a keyboard channel down here, which is stereo. This is actually set up from the last show yet. But let's say that's your mix, but all right, you got 4 people on stage. Guess what? Each of them has a monitor speaker. Maybe they have in-ears, but they have some kind of monitor that they want to listen to. Okay, how do I feed these channels to those monitors? That's what the extra auxes are over here. These, on this console, there's 32, but most of the PreSonus StudioLives have 16 aux. They could also be a subgroup. They can also be a matrix. That's for another video that's more in-depth and more advanced. But for now, auxes. If I have the first musician, let's say it's the guy on the left-hand side of the stage, he's a guitar player and does some singing, I can hit number 1. The output output on this, number 1, goes to his speaker. And now, same thing as I ran mix for the mains, now I set up a mix for him. Okay? So let's say that's what he wants. He doesn't want any kick drum for some reason. So that's what he wants in his mix. Great. Now let's go to the second guy. Mix number 2. Let's set up a mix for him. All right, he wants this in his monitor. All right, and you continue 3, same thing there. All right, and 4th guy, drummer, he definitely wants a lot of kick drum and the lead vocal over here. So, because of this setup right here, it gives you such instant access to all the mixes. That's what I love. One of the things I love about the PreSonus mixers, you're not paging through a lot of stuff to get where you need to go quick. All right, I've set everybody up. Now it's time. We ran late. It's time for the show. All I do is hit the main mix, and that pulls it right up on the sliders, and I'm mixing. Here we go. It's very fast. I love this console for that. And all of a sudden, I'm getting a hand signal or somebody on stage. And a lot of times, you can hook up an iPad wirelessly, and we would set a guy on stage either with an iPad, that usually works for what we do, or we can actually set up another console if we have to have it. If it's very complicated monitor mixes like stereo in-ears and a whole bunch of different people, we would probably set up another console. It's a little bit easier to get to things fast, and you're not having to deal with any Wi-Fi lag or things like that. Or you know how some iPads are just a little slow when you're moving and trying to get around on them. I probably went into a little bit more than what I wanted to. I want to try to do these series to cover individual things. Like I want to do an in-depth one about EQ. I want to do an in-depth one about plugging in and hooking all the monitors up. And I want to do one for, let's get into compressors and gates and limiters and all this processing that you have capable that you can do on these things. This particular mixer, the 64, has 8 effects processors. Those are down here. Let me talk about that quick, because that's just another mix just like a monitor. If I want to add some reverb now, okay, there's effect A, and right here I have default a digital reverb. So guess what? I want some on the vocals over here. So this is now going to send the signal, and let's say I want some on the guitar, and this vocal that we did, we want some on that for sure. And there's an acoustic guitar. And let's add a little to the keyboards, as he needs some. And yeah, we won't put any on the drums or anything. But this is where we can decide what signal is going to the reverb unit, processes it, and then it comes back in, and that's where the returns come into play. Those are more inputs. So on this console, if I want to see those returns or those inputs, I actually have to, let me go back to the main, and we want some of that reverb in the mains, right? That's where we want the reverb. I would scroll over on this console to 64. I would hit it one more time, and here we go. Here's my 8 effects returns. On all the other consoles, it would be 4 of them, A through D, and now I could bring A up in the mains. Same thing, what happens if player number 1 wants some of that in his monitor? I generally mix monitors dry, but if you've got somebody that wants a little reverb, guess what? You go over to mix 1, we're still on these extra auxiliary ins and stuff, and you bring that up in his monitor. Okay? Same thing with 2. He wasn't want as much. We'll put a little bit in there. 3 there, and the drummer, he doesn't get any because I'm a drummer. I never got any when I drummed. So that's the way that goes. But that's the quick way to adjust mixes. And let's go back to the main mix now. I'm going to have to reset this for the show. But I wanted to talk about mostly the gain structure, trying to get your input gain to that -12. That's going to give you a really good amount of level without distorting and without having problems. Learn to pay attention to your gain structure throughout everything. This is one piece of equipment that we're sending out to, let's say, an imaginary pair of powered speakers for the mains. Pretty easy once you have this set up. Now, imagine, let's get more complicated setup. You got a crossover. You got a speaker processor, like maybe one of the DBX, speaker processors. You want to make sure that your level isn't too loud or too soft with every piece of equipment that's getting patched in. That way, you're going to get the cleanest, best sound. Oh, I know I wanted to say. One of the things that you'll notice when you're dealing with sliders, and right now I'm going to go ahead and pull all these back, okay, for my main mix. And let's go back to our vocal 11 here. And I might have to zoom in, but if you notice, okay, the unity, which is right there, that dark line, okay, the next solid line above and below it is 5. That's 5 decibels. And all the way up is plus 10 decibels or minus 10. So there's, from there to there is 10 decibels of move. But then if you look at the next one, it's 20. So now 10 decibels, if I want to move this slider down 10 decibels from unity, I'm sliding it all the way down to there. But if I'm already there and I need to move it 10 decibels, I'm only moving it that far. The point of this, you've got more resolution, finer resolution up in this area here. So this is kind of where you want your levels to be. And even if you have something that's extremely loud or just not right, you could dial back your gain a little bit. I hate to do that because I like a nice strong signal coming in, and there's other ways to deal with it. But just keep that in mind. I know if the guitar is too loud and it needs to be down here, then let it be down there. It's not that big of a deal. But I like to at least get my vocals up in that range because you're making more fine adjustments on vocals than anything else when you're mixing. So it would be a good idea to have that higher resolution area right there around unity. So that's the one thing I wanted to say about gain structure too. In digital consoles, it really makes a difference when you're looking at this stuff. All right, there's a lot of things I barely touched on, and I promise I will do more videos, but today I think that's what I wanted to cover. I wanted to make sure we went over what to do to set up your first channel on one of these digital consoles. And when you understand what these do, man, they've got every tool in here that you'd ever want. So it's really exciting that you have those things, and it's overwhelming too. You're going to get overwhelmed right away. It's going to be complicated. Take your time. Be patient. Just start, and even if you have a powered speaker, plug it into the main output and just turn it down over here and just, so you can kind of hear what's going on. and just start playing with it. You know, adjust your levels and bring that up and down. And honestly, it won't take long, and you'll see things work. Where it gets more complicated with these digital mixers is when you start doing network and setting network stuff up. I don't care which brand you got. All of them take some real thought to get in there and do that. So anyways, I've talked enough about this. I'm going to let you guys go. I appreciate you watching our videos here. And like I said, I promise I'll do some more audio videos and get more in depth on some of these things. And if you have specific questions, put it in the comments. Send us a message on our website or call the store, send me an email. All that stuff's on teglermusic.com. Let me know what you want to learn, and I'll help you go through that stuff. I've been doing this for years and years and years, and I really like helping people to learn this so they can have a better mix and make their stuff sound better. So that's the whole point of this. Okay, that's all I got today. We'll see you guys next time.